What's going on, Garys? Welcome back to the Keep It Reet Vloggers. Wagon build, episode 4 or 5, not sure. You've seen us starting to get the interior back together in the last episode. You haven't seen it, go check it out. We got the seat covers back on there, got the dash pulled out again. I'm going to start doing some wiring while we wait for a few other bits. Still waiting on the cross member from Stewie Bryan at Acostal, so we can get the motor bolted in finally. We got an internal slave set up thanks to Bogret BSC Performance for sorting that for us. Gangster. She's getting there. Massive shout out to Mitch Mackey down at Mackielek over East Melbourne. Hit him up if you're in need for any electrical or Barra or build things. He's a wizard. He sorted us all this Haltech goodness. So you would have seen it. We got the Nexus R5, IC7 dash, switch panel, all our pressure sensors and all our new plugs to go on the Barra. A loom, looks like fun. Got some other bits and pieces like the PRP R35 coil bracket and adapter. Yeah, I just made this bracket here to hold the ECU. Couple of riv nuts. So I need to get the ECU in position. I've just made a big order for all that cable and all the good stuff to make the loom. But yeah, basically going to get this in position, start separating this and working out what's what. I've done a pin out diagram for our setup. Mitch helped us out with it. So yeah, basically just saying what everything is on the ECU side of things. Sorta, there's like 12 pages, bulk wiring, bulk good times. Just waiting on a battery still, but yeah, I'm gonna be starting on the body harness, all the headlights, taillights, brake lights, wipers, all the stuff we can do before we rip into the engine side of the harness, because obviously we need the engine in there to do that. Yeah, been scratching my head over this loom all day. And I've got it all simplified and worked out for our setup. Got all our sensors mapped out in our little bundles and stuff. It's a bit of a mess right now, but everything is there. Shut! Look at these two.
Putting the brush on. I'm watching you at all times. Couple of twists and turns. Nah, it is. A little bit of tape, that's a ticket. Tape
and cable
twist.
size, mate. But this is all the wires at the unpin, because like the Haltech allows for like 18 injectors and heaps of other stuff. So yeah, this is everything. This has provisions for NOS. We've got the NOS solenoid pressure sensor and purge system. It's got provisions for the clutch switch for rolling anti-lag. It's got standard anti-lag. It's got wipers, the whole body loom of the car. It has so many cool things. All the boost control on the switch panel. Has rotational idle, which is pretty cool. Like shuts off half the cylinders and gives it a lumpy ass idle that cools the engine down, but really it's just a big wank factor. All your headlights, indicators, bloody, the absolute works right here. Pretty gangster. And then yeah, your in-cabin stuff comes out here. And this is going to be like your brake switches. It's got the 3 wires running to the rear for the 3 fuel pumps, 1 lift pump, 2 surge pumps. Unfortunately, we have to put in 3 relays in the rear for the fuel pumps because we used up all the high current outputs. So you get 4 25 amp high current outputs with the Nexus. 2 of them are going to be the 2 big thermo fans. One's going to be ignition and one's going to be injectors. So there's our 4 25 amp high currents. You also get like, I think it's, how many do you get? You get 12 8 amp outputs, which is going to be all your brake lights, indicators, headlights, your NOS solenoid, your VCT runs off that because that's a 12 volt source. Or your 12 volt basically runs off your 8 amp outputs, and then got the 5 amp outputs from the ECU, which is all your sensors, and then all your inputs from your sensors and whatnot. It's pretty basic, kinda, but yeah. I'm gonna go ahead, bolt this to the bracket that I welded in here before. So there's the bracket up there, riv nutted. spot the ECU in there, and then gonna pass the cables, the ECU end in through that grommet with the in-car wires, which all run out here. So this grommet is actually the exact size for that hole. Thanks Haltech, that's Kane. Yeah, so these all plug into the ECU, and then they go, these are all the wires I need coming out in the cabin, and then these are all the wires I need going to the engine. Got CAN in the engine bay, that's for the wideband. If you don't know what CAN is, it's like a communications cable, basically like a data linking business. It's sick. So the dash, the wideband sensor, and the switch panel all run off a 4-wire plug like this, and that's CAN bus, and it just talks. They talk to each other, and it is absolutely gangster. So yeah, they all plug in here, little 4-pin plugs. That's your CAN bus system. So sick, absolute game changer, this stuff. Making progress, even though it might not look like it. So here we have the engine harness poking through here. There's a grommet. It's sort of unloomed right now because I'm routing wires and doing stuff. ECU mounted there. Obviously nothing's loomed up, so just relax. It will get loomed properly. For those of you that don't know, it's not only an ECU, but it's actually a PDM as well, so it's a power distribution module. So this runs the entire car. It has built-in relays and fuses, so that all your relays and fuses, everything in here, you get 4 25 amp outputs, you get 12 8 amp outputs, and then all your sensors, all your inputs, your outputs, everything's through here. So if you trip a fuse like you would in a normal car, instead of replacing the fuse, what you have to do, it basically breaks contact. You fix the short, turn the ignition on and off again, and then the fuse will be back together and you'll have continuity again. So there's no replacing fuses or anything like that. It is next level, that ECU. So sick. So got this tail light over here, just repin the factory plugs for the tail lights, which sucked. That runs through into the other tail light. Ignore the headlight, tail light plugs is chilling there, but yeah, looming through. That runs down front there. This one here comes off into these relays I mounted here. So these are the 3 switch wires that are going to turn on the 3 relays for the fuel pumps. So that's kind of that. They run down the front and terminate here. So I've got these Deutsch plugs on here. So they will plug in there into these wires I'm looming and gathering now to do the rear. Also here I have the right hand side headlights and indicators and all that. The throttle pedal, control and power, the brake switch, clutch switch. But yeah, just ticking along, starting the Lumo together. So it's going to start to take shape in here, even though it might not look like it right now because it's a bit of a pigsty. Got the ghetto cable rollers. Yeah, we're making progress. It doesn't really look like it, but nutting everything out, routing everything where it needs to go. Once I finish up in there, I'll run out the indicator, headlight, high, low beams inside the guards. Each side, run them out, get them hooked up, and then I've got to run the main power cables for the fuel pump feeds. So work out a battery location, isolator location, and circuit breaker location. And I can run the thick boy main power feeds for the relays and fuel pumps across. Mount the isolator switch on the center console area. I brought my big boy Sparky crimpers with me so we can crimp the main power cables and ground for the ECU and the isolator and the circuit breaker. Show you what I'm talking about. That's the circuit breaker, so 150 amp. So they'll trip when it pulls over 150 amp, and that's just resettable. So in case you have a big short in one of your main power cables, then obviously we just got a standard isolator, and we're gonna have to run a pull cable to that as well for up here, so it can be isolated in an emergency from the outside of the car. But yeah, I'll keep chugging along and give you guys updates as we make more progress. Body harness is nearing completion, sort of nearing completion. And then we're just waiting on the cross member from Stu Bryant, aka Acostal. Should have that very shortly, and we can yeah, we can bolt the gearbox clutch on properly. Gearbox, got the internal slave now. Yeah, get it all bolted together. New cross member, slap it in, and I can start wiring the engine, except we're still waiting on our intake manifold from Plasma Man. But yeah, I can make a start at least. All right, update on the wiring and the Wagoon. Just bolted in the rebuilt clutch brake booster, new clutch brake master. I don't even know, let's try that again. The rebuilt brake booster, brake master cylinder and clutch master cylinder. Just mocked up the windscreen wiper thingy. Got me wires there. I've run wires through here. It's all neat and heat shrunk and sleeved. Everything's bloody beautiful. That side as well. Plus the 2 wires for the twin thermos that are gonna go there. We've got a battery that's not mounted. We've got a circuit breaker. Isolator I did. The old vice folder, aka just a vice and a hammer. Starting to run some cables. Redirected those main cables for the ECU over to that side. I had them running down here, but Jason didn't want it on the driver's side, which is very fair enough. A lot of the heat shrink isn't shrunk yet. Heat shrink isn't shrunk yet, but we got the body harness coming from the ECU over to here. That goes out to the rear and doing all like the brake lights, fuel pump, switch wires, all that good stuff. Nice and neat. Deutsch connectors. Everything's pretty rough and thrown in there because we're gonna basically wire the whole thing, get the car running, and then rip it all out again and paint the engine bay and interior, and we can finalize everything once she's painted. I'm waiting on a few things to be delivered to do some more wiring, just the main power feeds for the battery and shit, but I'm puffed, too much talking. Yeah, while I wait for that, we're gonna go ahead and start getting this clutch and gearbox set up. So when we get the K Frame from Stewie, we can drop this setup straight in there. We did get some goodies from Phoenix over in the NZ, shout out Phoenix. Ben Jenkins hooked it up. Got our oil cooler, little power steering cooler, and radiator. It's an S15 radiator which has the coolant in and outs in the right spot for the Barra, and it's like the right dimensions for this. Once the engine's in, we can start mocking that up, working all that shit out. But yeah, you can go ahead, unbolt the clutch, bolt it on properly, and the gearbox. We got the crispy slave, internal slave here. Got to trim this little thing down here and do some bits and bobs. Yeesh. Progress. This week she should start to take shape. Radio and fuel cells due to show up by the end of the week, which will be sick. Start cutting out the boot. Corey will start cutting out the boot.
Hey, I'm on all that.
Alright, another update. As you saw, got the clutch bolted on there with the Machielec flywheel bolt holder, which stops them from coming loose. Semi lube under the head and Loctite on all the bolts, of course. She's all torqued up. Got this thing cut down, so box is ready to go on the bell housing. That's ready to go on, starter motor on. Been doing some more wiring, of course, never ends. But the body loom is looking pretty good. Everything's not run exactly how it's going to be, but got the body ground, the main ECU ground coming off there as well, running along there. Main power feed in, circuit breaker down to our oscillator switch there. So it's looking pretty good. It's obviously going to get neatened up as to do a battery mount as well. But yes, it's getting there. Been down to Machielec, see Mitch. Cheers, Mitch, absolute legend, helping this build out a shitload and helping me out, helping me figure out what's going on. But basically, got a bottom thermostat housing thing that bolts the head off him. It's already got a -6 welded on it for the turbo water feed. I got a delete that because that was for a heater hose. Don't need. Gonna drill and tap that so we can put one of our pressure and temperature sensors. We've got 3 of these. One for water, oil, and fuel. So I'll drill and tap there for one of them. That'll be our water, pressure and temp. And then he sells these beautiful anodized or powder coated or whatever coolant next. So that sits on there and they'll sit here. So that'll be the highest part of the engine. So he puts a radiator cap on them. These actually swivel as well. O-ring seal. So that's pretty gangster set up there. So I got a gasket and some seals and thermostat stuff from Mitch. So I'm gonna get that cranking. He also told us how to get our oil feed for the turbo. So basically, come over here. Factory oil pressure sensor that puts a light on your dash. Don't need. A little single wire thing just brings up a light on your dash. It says you got low oil pressure, but your motor's probably cactus by then. So you get this 1/4 inch MPT adapter, obviously with some sealant. That'll screw in to the block like that. Then you get this thing. So that's a dash 4 to dash 4 with a 1/8 MPT thread there for the pressure and temperature sensor. So that goes on there like that. Pressure and temperature sensor will screw in there, and then out of this dash 4 we'll run our oil feed over to our turbo. So that's a pretty nifty little setup there. So I'm going to get that all sorted, this coolant neck system sorted. Also got this, so that slides in there in the back of the water pump with a little fork there that will hold it. That'll go in there, and that'll be the other side of our water cooling. I need to get an adapter to go from dash 10 to dash 6. That'll be the other side of the water for the turbo. Some really exciting parts rocked up from our boy Stewie Bryant down at Acostal in SA. Hit up Acostal Motorsport if you want some of the gnarliest suspension and steering setups. Shit's all over Wisefab, but yeah, here it is. We've got the Raw edition. This is the first one I think he's made for a 31, so if we need a notch anything or anything like that, we can, but basically pretty hard to tell what's going on. But this is a cross member and steering rack, so your steering rack goes in here. These are the engine mounts, fully adjustable, and then fully adjustable in there. Our engine mounts sit on there. So many adjustments, it's actually wild. You can move your rack forward and back, you do all sorts. So that will bolt up there to our frame rails. No more cross member that usually bolts in there. And then these pickup points here, that'll be a lower control arm. It will come around to there. It'll be cast with lower control arm in one. Big white piece out each side of there. That's still coming. This thing's pretty cool. This is a prototype dual handbrake that he sent us because Jason wanted to give it a shot. So basically, it'll sit like that. How does it sit? Let me just work this out.
3 hours later.
Yeah, so basically, you'll pull back on it. We need to make a handle. Pull back on it, and the top one will push on this master cylinder, which will do the rear brakes. And when you push forward on it, it will push the bottom one in, and that will do the front brakes. So it's basically back is rear brakes, forward is front brakes. So you can left foot brake with your hand, and you can still control the clutch and the throttle without having to take a foot off to touch the brake. So like some tricky left foot braking would be good for victory skids as well. I know it's prototype. I think Stewie's just bored and spends too much time on CAD, so we got it. It's pretty sick. Yeah, have to give it a shot. I almost feel like it's going to be a little bit too much going on, but might be alright. See how she goes. But yeah, I'm going to dress this motor up with that stuff here that I was saying. We can get the box on, and then we'll be getting the K Frame in, and the stuff I was just showing you from Acostal, seeing where the engine sits, hopefully in the same spot. It's got a lot of adjustment anyway. Once that's in, we can start looking at radiator, intercooler, and a shitload of other shit. Alright, about to chuck the gearbox on and chuck it in. Got some lines on the internal slave here, so one's just got the bleeder in it, the other one will attach to our clutch lines. I got this adapter fitting thing going on for our Bosch oil temp and pressure sensor. I still need to get a bung to block that. Waiting on some knock sensors to chuck in and a dipstick. Over here I got that set up there for one of our water lines. and I modified the bottom coolant neck. So I'm just spraying in some crinkled black out here now. So that's another water fitting for the turbo, and then that's the water temp and pressure bung welded in there, and then blocked the heater hose outlet that they usually have. Got the Stu Bryant Acostal Motorsport K Frame bolted in, looking gangster. Acostal Drew. We just got it in raw. We still gotta spray it. Got the Stagia steering rack. Modified this to tilt it back a bit, so this angle here is nice. Gives you all sorts of different mounting options here, forward, back, up and down. So we've gone the highest ones and all the way forward, just to try eliminate that bind and bump steer. Looking pretty killer. So I'm about to chuck the box on there and then throw the engine in. And then yeah, I'll still be waiting on a few things, including the intake manifold, but slap her in and start looking at some other stuff. True. The Barra is back in its home with the Acostal K Frame. Stewie just sent these to us tacked together because we might have had to change the angle of them, because this is like the first time doing a kit for a 31. So I did, so I'd had to take 10 degrees out of that angle, and I also chopped 10 mil out of these engine mounts with a circ saw. Hey. Yeah, so I got the engine sitting a bit lower, a little bit further back than we did before, which means even more trimming on this stupid gearbox tunnel, because we've got hittage there so close to the seat rail. I'm gonna have to move the seat rail, do some trimming and all sorts. So that's pretty annoying, but it is what it is. But yeah, now I'm just gonna start looking at this front end. So we're gonna be chopping off this and trying to sit the radiator in there. Shout out to the guys at Phoenix, sending through this pretty sick gear. That's Ben Jenkins' company over in the NZ. So we got a 25 row, I think, oil cooler, little 10 row power steering cooler, -6, -10, and then this is an S15 radiator, which is about the same dimensions as a 31 and has the outlets in the right spots for the Barra. So it's got a pretty sweet shroud on it. Gonna get some spell, I think it is, fans, and then I'm hoping to sit that basically there, but sunken down lower. So I'm gonna get chopping and see what we can do. Alright, where we're at with the wagon, I put this front end sorted together. I just got this rad support they cut out, just mocked up there. The radiator is going to sit like underneath that. So I still got to do some bar work down there, but we bought a pipe bender and we got the wrong size dies for it. Correct. Here she is set up over here, ready to bend some pipe. But yeah, I gotta get the right size dies. But yeah, while we wait for that, I've got the Thermostat Housings on. So, got the water pressure and temperature sensor there, and then a -6 outlet for one of the sides of the turbo for the water. I'm gonna start mocking up the exhaust manifold and turbo. Also going to, before I do that, I'm gonna shorten this steering column. So that spline there has to line up with that bolt there and spline. So I'm going to chop it back here, shorten it, and get that bolted up. And then I'm also going to make a bracket for the Bosch drive-by-wire pedal. So it's just chilling there at the moment. Gonna make a bracket for that, get that mounted. Hopefully our intake manifold and radium fuel cell will be here shortly, and we can start getting shit happening. So I modified the steering rack column, took 65mm out of it. It's outside drying because I just painted it, but I got the brand new FG rocker cover on here, looking spicy. Just bolted in the PRP R35 coil pack conversion bracket, and now I'm just converting the coil packs over with the boots. So I've done it before, I'll show you how to do them. So basically you just pull this boot off. There's a little resistor that sits in there. You gotta be careful not to lose that, so you gotta keep that. Pull the boot off. There's a little resistor that sits in there. You can pull it out. Looks like that. Make sure that goes back in, you don't lose it. And then you got these. They have a built-in spring in them. Don't lose that either. And then you just push that end on. Job done. Now you can bolt it in to the coil pack bracket. Just while I got the thing in the air, just thought I'd show you the gearbox mount I just did. It's pretty cool. It's a bit of poly block. I think it's from like a VRVS spring seat. Here's the rest of it, chopped her up. And that's got our engine sitting on the right angle as well. So we've got about 3.5 degrees on the engine and gearbox to the car. So yeah, 2 to 4 degrees apparently is the go-to. So she's mint. Now I'll drop her back down and do some more shit in the engine bay. Exciting times. We got the tube ski manifold. I think I'm just procrastinating and putting off doing all the other things that I need to do, like making a throttle pedal bracket and trans tunnel clearance and covers and all the rest. This has got to be done anyway at some point. So shout out Hypergear once again, supplying the spoolie boy. Tom, you can overlay exactly the specs of this thing, but the Shat 6 boost, got some studs in there, chucked a couple studs in here just to hold it. The metal gasket, which not sure I'm a big fan of, it's the one Burson sent out. Might have to get a different one, but coil pack's all in, looks sexy. Oh, look at the coil pack. Steering column all welded up and painted. Chucked in the brake booster stopper thingy. Spoolie boy is on. True. The Wu-Tang war whistle. True.
Hiroshima hairdryer.
Hiroshima hairdryer. Rang up Better Brakes this morning in, where are they, Croydon? Shout out Better Brakes, absolute legends. They come and pick up and drop off whatever you need, and they do a killer job. So they made me some braided brake lines. These are the 4 rear calipers. So obviously 2 for the handbrake, 2 for the foot brake. That's them, and then they're gonna go to hard lines. I got the brake master cylinder line just bolted in there. So that's gonna run down there and then go to hard line to run to the rear. And then I got the clutch line as well. So that's gonna run from the clutch master cylinder across and tuck in there somewhere nicely. And that's gonna connect to one of our internal slave lines. And then the other internal slave line will be the bleeder. So I'm going to run that now and hook that up. Mint. Had issues with the engine not wanting to turn over with the internal slave. I think there was some rubbing and grabbing. I think I sorted it, but to get the box on and off easily with the internal slave, because it's got, can you turn that music off, Corey? Because it's got these lines coming out the side. I'm going to take a big check out of the bell housing. Super spooky, but it's pretty solid bell housing. Bolts to the box should be just fine. So that way this can come off and on with the box sort of thing, because it's just too hard otherwise. So yeah, I'm going to take the trusty circ saw to the bell housing. Wish us luck. True. Next minute, bell housing snaps in half.
That'd be interesting.
It's kind of spooky.
Yeah.
Get that concentration base, mate.
Alright, hopefully the old diesel heater isn't too noisy in the background there because it's cold. But got the gearbox back on and all hooked up like that. Drive shaft's going to be ready to pick up soon, so we ended up having to go one piece just because of the angles that were going on. Jason didn't want to go one piece because he reckons they vibrate. I always wanted him to go one piece, so that's a win. I got the wires in the engine bay sort of just laid out where they're going to be going, so I can start looking at looming it up and terminating that at some point soon. Pretty basic there. Got all your sensors under the intake manifold, the throttle, drive-by-wire, ignition, which is going to plug in to there, and then at the back of the intake manifold I'm going to have a big Deutsch plug that basically will unplug the whole intake manifold, so the injectors, the map sensor, the throttle, and you can just pull the intake off as a complete piece instead of trying to unplug injectors and all that. In here, so I got the throttle pedal mounted and all wired up, so that's sick. And it's coming together in here, so basically I'll put in this distribution block as well. It's probably really hard to see, with the starter and alternator power cables, super basic, ish. Ticking things off the list. I'm going to throw the dash in now. We got a weld on quick release hub, so I'm going to weld that on to the steering column, mount the steering wheel after I put the dash in, and then we can start looking at handbrake position. I think I mentioned this one already, the Acostal setup. We're going to try and get a handle to come out at about 60, 50 degrees. So you can sort of like push down for front brakes and then pull up for rear brakes. Still waiting on an inline reservoir for the front brakes because they're going to be ran inline because we do not have dual caliper up the front. That's not going to be an issue. And start looking at that so I can get that training tunnel sort of sorted out. I think we're going to try steel plate a lot of it and then use it like a FIA fire retardant boot for where the shifter comes up, something like that. I've been busy doing other stuff down at the Kangang factory, but yesterday I did get a little bit of time to do some stuff, and I almost got the entire wiring buttoned up. So if we just run you through a few things we got going on down here where our cables come through. So that's our coil pack harness there, and it's our coil pack plug there. Plug in this one here is our injectors. So our intake manifold will have I'll make a loom for that, and then the injectors will just plug in there. That's NOS, that's for future NOS solenoid, purge solenoid pressure sensor. You got a wideband running across over there. Obviously hasn't been heat shrunk or tidied up or anything. Oil pressure and temp. This will be our fuel pressure and temp. The crank, VCTs, cam sensors, boost control runs over there. This one here is going to be our throttle body, and that's water pressure and temp, but obviously still waiting on that intake manifold to finish up a lot of that. I got the dash in, drilled out this weld on quick release, so smack that on there. Still got to weld it. So I got the handbrake pretty much mounted. So even though we thought this was going to be the first car where Jason has a vertical hydro, nah, it was just worked out better, and he'll like it better anyway. So basically got this 3mm steel that I folded up with a hammer and a bench to weld to the tunnel, so that's been welded to the tunnel, and then this 10mm plate that came with the handbrake from Acostal. So I tapped threads into these holes, and then basically I welded up the handbrake because it came not welded, so threw down some bloody beads on that. So basically that will sit there, and then heaps of 8mm bolts will screw into those threads, and then we're going to get a handle made, probably chop this off. It's going to come forward and it sits about here. So yeah, basically that will be rear brakes, and then he'll push down for front brakes. So yeah, it sits really nicely with the seats and everything like that. And then I just got to run my cables around it sort of thing for the isolator. So it should work all right. Yeah. Yeah, so handbrake mount is complete, which is sick. Super solid, ain't gonna be flexing at all. We got a drive shaft, which is sick. Ended up going one piece as much as Jason wanted to go two piece. I tried convincing him to go one piece and he wouldn't listen, but the guy at the drive shaft shop said, yeah, no, you're gonna have to go one piece just because of the angles and stuff. So here we have a beautiful one piece paddle shift. Got the G-Force input shaft there. Shout out GJ Drivelines, but not shout out because no discount. And then yeah, obviously the hectic diff pinion U-bolt things go there. A bit weird, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully the length I measured's right, otherwise rip. Yeah, the engine's pretty much done wiring wise. Just waiting on some knock sensor plugs that I don't have, the intake manifold, and yeah, a boost control solenoid because I don't have that. Yeah, so I'm going to be getting some titanium pie cuts to do a little practice on, and if I can manage to weld it, we're going to be doing titanium exhaust and titanium screamer pipes, which is going to be pretty freaking cool. So hopefully I can manage to weld it. I'm a YouTube expert now, so just got to make sure everything's clean by the sounds of it. Clean, clean, clean. But so it happens, go get a big size cup, a dual regulator so I can purge it. Should be purging our stainless anyway, so yeesh. So next on this thing, I'm gonna weld that quick release hub. We're waiting on an adapter to go from the quick release to the 90 because we got the wrong PCD quick release. It's a 6x70, not a 6x74, which is what the 90s are. But also we finally got the right dies for our new Speedworks bender, which is sick. So we got 1.5 inch tube die and like a 20 or 25 mil pipe die for the littler stuff. Yeah, I think the 1.5 inch tube would be bash bars and stuff like that, and then I might just use the 20 to 25 mil pipe just for the radiator support, intercooler mounts and stuff up the front here, since I chopped that off. So I'm going to be doing that very shortly. We got some dual Mishimoto thermo fans that rocked up to slap on our Phoenix radiator. So there's one of them there, oh, there's the other one. Slap on that Phoenix radiator, so they blow like 1700 CFM each, apparently, according to the Mishimoto website. So should get about 3400 CFM out of them, which is pretty hectic. Should keep this thing nice and cool, hopefully. Radiator's not the biggest radiator, but it works for our setup, so hopefully those fans can keep her cool. All right, drive shaft is in. Look at that. Woo woo. It's the right length. When I jack the diff up a bit, this sits about 25 mil out, so it gives room to move in and out as the car squats and droops. Right now it's a little bit drooped, so you can see it's hanging out a little bit further, but yeah, it all seems pretty Mickey Mouse. Cool U-bolt design there. They're not cranked all the way. Everything needs to be torqued up back here, but leave that to the end because often we're pulling things back out again. All right, got the seats back in, handbrake nice and mounted, looking very sturdy. Wires ran around it. Made this plate here to cover that hole, and I'm getting a race company to make a custom fire retardant shifter boot to cover the shifter. We got that welded on there. Tidied up some more wiring, wired the wiper motor, headlights, buttoning up a few things, but I just went and picked up some pipe for the bender. So we got this, it's a 15 NB nominal bore, which is 21.3 mil diameter. Here's the tube here. Smaller than I thought it would be, but I reckon with the way I'm going to make it, it should be plenty strong enough. Be nice and lightweight and tight little neat bends. So yeah, I'm going to bend up a reference and a cheater pipe. Alright, got our big boy Mishimoto fans mounted to the Phoenix radiator. Now I'm going to try fit it in there, sit it on that bin, and then draw something up. These are my frame rails. Draw what I need, the measurements, slap her in the bender and bend her up. And I've bent up a bit of a rad support. Oof. Down there. So I tied the front of the frame rails in with the big bar, and then come forward for the radiator bottom support. I just need to get some rubbers to go in there, the factory ones, but persons won't answer their phones. Top mount up there. So this is an S15 radiator, I think I mentioned. Got the big Mishimoto fans on there, and then standard Barra radiator hoses. Pretty sick. Got these wires coming off the fans here, which need to connect to these wires here with a nice Deutsch plug and some grounds. This sits awfully high, but the vents we're going to put in the bonnet should clear it, hopefully.
Coming along. Put the grill in.
Cane fitment.
Import grill.
Marpole grill.
Marpole grill.
Oh, true. My new mounts.
She still sitting right, I think.
Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad. Look at that. Easy access. With a block off cap for that, eh?
Yeah, that one's not going to be doing anything because obviously this is a lot higher. So we'll get a cap. Hopefully we can just get a cap that doesn't lift at a certain pressure. So instead of like cutting it and welding it, and then this will be our main cap. Yeesh.
Still waiting on the actual intake.
Postman man is sleeping.
They must have bulk orders.
Yeah.
Flat out. But it's supposed to be here this week, so hopefully we get updates that it just looks so much nicer. We got updates that World Time Attack's been pushed back until next year, April, which ain't a bad thing for us. Just means we're going to have some good testing before that time. And now we might even be able to slow the process down and actually get it all done before paint, test the whole thing in ghetto spec, just to make sure everything's mint, and then do the full pull down and spray her up all completely bare. Get it looking schmicky D's. Acostal's on the way, so we can put the shockworks in. And it's got like some sort of template to cut the tower out for camber and caster or something. His LCAs, I was speaking to him because like to match the rear poke and what the old wagon had about 50mm worth of bolt-on spacers on the front with the 10-inch wide wheel, and it had I think they were R31. It was all R31 standard front end. Apart from obviously like S13 knuckles and stuff, and the R31 LCAs I think were extended like 40 to 50mm, so there's 100mm of extra track. When you verse that to like say R33 and how much longer his LCAs are, he reckons you can actually get 80mm over an R33 LCA on his. You can actually get more than that, but that's where the rack ends that he supplies will max out. So it's pretty crazy. It's like turnbuckle design. So we should do
how much wider is 33 than?
I think 33 is like 20-25mm.
Yeah,
bigger
so
than
you
31.
should get your 100mm.
So I should get it. Plus we got wider wheels and everything else. So it should be carrying. Oh yeah, you cut them recently.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were 80mm extended.
Oh yeah.
And they like, yeah.
You sure? It wasn't 40?
No, they were a lot more than that.
Yeah?
I'm sure of it. They were big.
Yeah. Oh, either way, he's got
She's going to be girth.
He's got rack end, so we can get whatever width we want. Either way. Or cut and shut Stewie's.
Yeah.
Expensive.
Cut up the Acostal. We need a bit more, mate.
But that'll be nice.
Okay.
Once we get our planet, which should be here, then all the Acostal, we can bolt it all in and sit it on the ground. That'd be sexy. We've got our Driveshaft, we've got everything.
We got a pretty spicy radium fuel cell that rocked up too. Oof.
Give him a sneak of that.
Ish.
Cut that in there.
Got to cut that in. That would be a bit of a mission. Oof. Spicy radium fuel cell supplied by Golby's, straight from the US. Yeah, this thing's going to be wicked. Ability to have 1 lift pump and 3 surge pumps, built-in surge into the cell. It's about a 50 litre cell roughly. It's in gallons, so I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's coming.
If you're watching this video and you got bulk cash and you want to put your name on the side of this car, you'll email us, admin@keeperreet.com, or sponsorship at keeperreet.com, and give me your money, son, for this Kang build. The 100k R31 wagon. Most expensive 31 in the world.
Literally.
This is version 1. We've still got version 2 coming after this, because the aim is to have R31 in every country. So FD R31 America, FD Japan R31 wags. Maybe we'll do the 2J1 for America. You can't have a Barra in America. Barra for Oz. Maybe do it like a nice RB26 one for Japan. True. For NZ. Quad rotor for NZ.
Yeah, or RB. They love their RBs as well, NZ.
Quad rotor, they love rotors. You have to.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That works. What other countries have got? Europe. What's Europe gonna get? 2J.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, BMW motor.
S52.
Diesel.
Yeah. I'm gonna mount the PWR intercooler. Shout out PWR. Where's the sponsorship?
Yeah, hit us up, PWR. I know.
We're rocking them.
I know you don't need to sponsor anyone, but you do need to sponsor me. Because I'm repping every car, PWR. And Shockworks. Shockworks got around it. Thanks, Shockworks. Top blokes. Ultimate suspension. Yes.
Yeah, I'll mount the intercooler out the front here. Trim this bar to suit. This bar is a little bent up, so hopefully Jace can find a better condition one.
At least it's good colour.
Before paint, but this will do for mocking up. And then mount the power steering cooler here under the headlight and oil cooler under this headlight over it. Because yes. Got the thermostatic sandwich plate here to run out to our oil cooler. Alright, front tube supports are basically complete. So I just tied it in to the K frame here. Had to MIG them so they're gross because our MIG sucks. Tigged the rest of it, little support in there. Not bad. Couple beads. So yeah, that's the intercooler bottom support. See how we go. More than likely you're going to need to do an upper support for the intercooler as well, the PWR. But yeah, just waiting to get the rubbers for the bottom of the radiator for there, but I'm going to go ahead and slap it all in, see how she all fits up. Alright, I reckon we'll wrap that one up here. Yeah, the wiring's almost complete as you saw, just waiting on some knock sensors. Obviously the intake manifold, throttle body, and then I can do the injectors as well. The radiator and intercooler mounted, radiator plumbed, need to do some intercooler piping, exhaust, probably going to be doing titanium, wastegate, screamer, fuel cell, all the rest. And yeah, so in the next video you'll see a sponsor that's jumped on board to support the build, which is pretty epic. So yeah, look forward to digging through the care package we got from them to get this thing fully plumbed up. Should be pretty epic. Once we get done with all this custom fab stuff, things are going to start to fly along. Quick shout out to the companies that have already helped the build move along so far. Of course, Hypergear Turbos, as always. Phoenix Radiators for supplying the radiator, power steering cooler and oil cooler. Of course, Mitch Mackey at Mackey helping out heaps with supplying parts and questions on Barra related things because he's the Barra guru. Acostal Motorsport for the sick handbrake, crazy K frame and all the rest. So shout out Stu at Acostal Motorsport. A few other people that I've missed, but anyway, thanks for watching another video on the old Barra Wags. She's going to be taking some sick progress soon. She's getting there, slow and steady, no rush anymore. But yeah, next episode on this thing should be pretty damn exciting. See you then. Say goodbye, Corey.
Get out of my face, boy.
Oos.